Star Wars. You just gotta love Star Wars, right? Hi, my friend, and welcome to the channel. I am Richard Genders, and you are watching Genders Gaming, a channel dedicated to analog games. Today, I'm going to bring you with me to a universe that you probably have heard about before. It is played out in a galaxy far, far away. I am, of course, talking about Star Wars. This is Outer Rim, a 1 to 4 player games from Fantasy Flight Games. And this is about you smuggling goods, taking care of bounties in outer space. You can buy spaceship, you can get new crews, and I am going to show you how you do that. I'm going to show you the setup of this game, I'm going to give you the overview of the gameplay, but also go through the rules and what you can actually do in this game. So once you have watched this video, well, you are pretty much ready to take your own spaceship and fly away. So let's just have a look at this. This is the setup of the game. In the middle of the gaming area, we put out the Outer Rim. Next to that area, we put out the tokens. This is the data cards, this is the credits, the gold tokens, damage tokens, and the die. Down here, below the rim, we have the market cards. These should be split up into their corresponding groups, and then you take the top card and put face up on each market card. The rim is built by putting together the different tiles, starting with the end caps where the patrols will start from. Then you go on with Ord Mantell, Lothal, Kessel, Nalhutta, Naboo, and Takodana. On the end caps, you put the patrols. You start by putting the level 2 patrols, then 3, and then 4 on their corresponding place on these end caps. The level 1 patrols are put out on the first nav point on the map, and we do this on both sides. Then we also need to put out all of the contact tokens. These are contacts that you can meet up with on the different planets where those contacts are. We put them out face down with this side up. On the other side we have the contact. We can see where to put them because we put them at the corresponding color and level down in the bottom. We do this on all of the contact places. Next to the rim, we also put the different event cards corresponding to the planets out on the board. Meaning that Ord Mantell should be next to Ord Mantell, Lothal next to Lothal, Kessel next to Kessel, and so on. The nav points are the cards up here, and these represents all of the little nav points out on the board. Once we have set up the gaming area, it's time for us to choose a character. Once we have chosen a character, we place it in this component, in our player board. Here we can see that we have the personal goal side facing up. Because once you have completed your personal goal, you flip this card over and all of a sudden you get an extra ability. But we start on personal gold. We also have this little pin here at 0. This is the fame track, and the one that has the most fame at the end of the game is the winner. Down here we can see that we should use setup card 90, meaning a data card with the numbers 90 on it. Here we get some more information. We can see IG-88's starting location. You should put your player standee on your starting planet. And we can also see that he starts with a bounty. These are jobs that you can complete and should be put beneath your board like that. Once you get gear to your ship, they should be placed above the board. Moderations up here, cargo here, and you have the crew down there. This is the reputation area. Some of the characters will start with a minus or a plus on the reputation track. Here we can see the different parties that you can have reputation with. We have the Huts, the Syndicate, the Imperial, and the Rebels. When we have chosen our character and set up this board, we need to choose a starter ship. And we can see that it is a starter ship because it says starter ship. Here you have the speed of the ship, the firepower of the ship, and the whole life of this ship. These are double-sided and the players need to choose which one they would like to start with. On the characters, you can also see their firepower and health by looking at their character cards. Every now and then you will be asked to use either your ground force, meaning this, representing your characters being on ground running around shooting, or your ship's force, representing you being up in space flying and shooting. So now we're almost ready to start playing the game. We just have one last step. We have set up the gaming area, we have set up our player boards, but we also need to hand out some credits to all the players. The starting player will get 4,000 credits. The second player will get 6,000 credits. The third one will get 8,000, and if there's a fourth player, that player will get 10,000 credits. Once we have done all of this, set up the rim, set up the market, set up our player boards, we are ready to start playing the game. And it is played out that each player does their turn, and then it goes to the second player in clockwise order. And we simply keep on playing until one player reaches the goal of 10 fame. 10 fame is an ordinary normal game. You could play up to 8 fame if you want to have a faster game, but you can also play up to 12 fame if you want a longer and more heavy game. But what can the characters do during their turn? Well, let me show you. The first thing players need to do is to go through the planning step. During the planning phase, this is where you have a chance to, well, plan what you want to do in the action step. And you can choose to do different things in the planning step. The first thing you can choose to do is to move in the outer rim. And you do this by first looking at your ship's stats to see how far you can move. The G1A Starfighter has a speed of 5, meaning that this ship can move 5 steps. Now, my character Yun starts on Kessel, and on Kessel you have some different routes that you can go. I could choose to go with the yellow nav points, and move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5 steps. But I could also choose to go here. But this here is a maelstrom, meaning that once you end up on this, you need to stop your movement. And you cannot move more during your turn, unless a card tells you otherwise. Each of the nav points and planets represents one step. If you end up on a patrol, they will also stop your movement. If you have a negative reputation with them. If you have neutral or a positive reputation, you can just move as normal. But if Yun, for example, ends up on an Imperial patrol, she will need to stop, as she have a negative reputation with them. If you start your planning phase on the same space as a patrol, you are allowed to move away from them. So that was movement, one of the things that you can choose to do during the planning phase. But you could also choose to, for example, get 2,000 credits, or you can choose to recover all the damage that you or your ship has received during combat. If you have reached the maximum life of your ship or your own character, you need to do this. Then you can't choose anymore. Some cards will also let you play out them during the planning phase, and they will say on the cards what you can do and when you can use them. Now we move into the action step. Here players have 4 different choices, but they can actually choose to do all 4 of them. So this is not like the planning step where you can only choose one. Here you can do all if you want to. The first thing you can do is to trade. Now you can trade credits, but then you do not need to be on the same location as the player that you want to trade money with. And you can do your own terms here. You can say that if I give you 2 credits now, then you are responsible to give me 4 credits later in the game. And then the player says, yeah, of course I will do that. And maybe when the time comes, they will not do that. So there's no binding deals here in this game. You will simply have to trust your fellow players that they will keep on whatever they say. And you can also choose to trade goods, cargoes, or crew if you want to. But then, of course, you need to be on the same location as the player you would like to trade with. And I think this makes sense thematically, right? I mean, if you want to transfer money to someone, you do not need to be in the same room anymore. You simply do it on your little phone or data or whatever you want to. But if you want to trade a physical member from your crew, it would be better to be in the same location than to just ship them out through space, right? Besides trading with your fellow players, you can also choose to go to the market. But to go to the market, you need to be located at one of the planets, meaning that you cannot be on the nav points or Maelstrom and go to the market. If there is a card out on the market that you do not want another player to get, you can choose to mess with the market, meaning that you take the card, put it in the bottom, and then expose a new card instead. But you can also choose to buy one of the face-up cards. And you do not need to buy from the pile that you have just messed with, you can choose one of the others. So if I would like to buy this card here, for example, I would need to pay 15,000 credits. We can see down here that this is a gear. So if I buy this, I need to put it in an available gear spot on my player board. If I do not have any free spaces, I need to remove one to be able to place the new one. Once I have bought a card, I need to face up a new card from that deck again. Every time this symbol shows, we need to move one of the patrols out on the board. Here we can see that we should move the rebels by 4 steps. Meaning that we need to move this one here 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. They will always move towards the nearest player. The patrols do not need to stop at the Maelstorms. They can freely move through it. If they ever end up at a character spots with a negative reputation, they end their movement. As we can see out on the market, we also have cargo, we have mods to upgrade our ship, we have different jobs we can complete, or bounties. All of these needs to be placed on the ship or at the character board. So on the market, we can do jobs, we can do different bounties, which will give us more fame. We can also do the cargo supplies, which will give us money. Then we can upgrade our ships. But of course, we can also buy new ships. Because maybe we don't want the ship that we already have. Maybe we want one that goes further. Maybe we want one that can carry more goods. Or one that can make us stronger, give us more life. They're all in this pile of ships. Just like the other things out on the market, we would look up in the left corner to see what we need to pay to actually get this ship. When we get the ship, we remove this card from the market. Again, we flip up the top card to show a new ship. But now we have to take our ship from the ship pile and change out the ship that we have in front of us. When you get a new ship, you should put it with the ship goal facing up. Once you have completed this goal, you simply flip the card over, and now you have a new ability. So that was the market action you can choose to do. Either mess with the piles and buy a card, or simply just buy a card, or just mess with the market. Because you can mess with the piles, meaning changing the cards here, just to make the other players mad, and not buy anything at all. You're not obligated to buy, which is quite funny actually. The things that you buy goes into your compartment as I showed you. The next thing you can choose to do is to actually deliver your cargoes. Meaning that if I have a cargo here that needs to be delivered, this is my chance to do it. To deliver the cargo, you need to be on the destination stated on the card. In this case, the Ring of Catherine. Some of these cargoes are illegal. Then you usually need to test yourself. In this case, you need to roll a die and get a hit to be able to deliver the cargo. Meaning this one right here. If you do not get a hit, you need to draw one of the data cards. In this case, number 1. There are 4 different number 1 data cards. Meaning that you should simply draw one at random. And then you need to complete whatever this card says to be able to deliver the cargo. But not all cargo is like that. If it's not illegal, then you can simply just drop it off and go away. But it makes sense. I mean, you are a smuggler, and if you are smuggling illegal cargo, somebody is probably going to stop you. And then you need to test your skills as a smuggler. If you pass it, well, then you deliver the goods. It makes sense, right? Besides trading, going to the market, or delivering goods, some cards will actually give you an action, and this is where you have a chance to use them. So now we have gone through the first two steps of a player's turn. We went through the planning step and the action step. Now we move into the encounter step, and here we can only choose to do one of the following. We can't choose to do all of them like we did in the action step. If we are on the same space as an enemy patrol, meaning a patrol that we have negative reputation with, we need to encounter them. If we do not have an enemy patrol at our space, we could choose to do an encounter card. But we can also choose to encounter one of the characters that are on the planets that we are on. If we are on a planet, that is. But let me show you how it works. So if you are on a planet and you have a patrol that you have negative reputation with, you need to encounter it and can't do anything else during your encounter step. Meaning that now you would need to fight their ship value. You can see that this patrol here has a fighting value of 3, meaning that they get to roll 3 die. Now you need to look at your value to see how many die you get to throw. In this case, our ship has a value of 2, so we get to roll 2 die instead. Whoever gets the most hits wins this fight. If you lose the battle, you simply move the patrol one step away from you and take the damage. But if you win the battle, you get the rewards stated on the bottom part of the patrol's token. But note that the level 4 patrols will have this value. They will always deal enough damage to defeat the player's ship, and they will always win the combat. You do not need to roll here. Besides getting the reward on the token, you also get less reputation with that faction. Meaning that we now beated a rebel faction here, so we lose reputations with the rebels. Now this token is removed from the game, and we need to spawn a new patrol from their pile, putting him face up out on the first nav point again. And that is how an encounter works. You simply roll the die stated on the tokens and on your cards. The one that gets the most scores wins that battle. But if you do not start your encounter phase on a patrol with a negative enemy, you do not need to face them. You can simply do one of the other encounters instead. You can choose to encounter one of the cards on the planet that you're on. If you're on a planet, you simply draw the cards corresponding to that planet's name, and then you read the section of that card. Now, if you're on a nav point, for example, you simply draw from the nav point deck instead. Or if you're on the Maelstrom, you simply draw the Maelstrom card, and then you read the section of that card. Instead of encountering the cards in your space, you can also encounter characters. Again, you need to be on a planet, and you can only encounter the 2 tokens that are next to the planet that you're on. If you want to encounter that, you simply flip it over, and you need to look at the token to see which card from the data bank you need to read. Depending on which contact you will meet, different things will of course happen, all stated on these data cards, which is just such a cool feature. Meaning that sometimes, like in this case, I met Leah and I'm quite happy because I have good reputation with her. So I actually get a job without doing anything. But sometimes you're quite unlucky and you might meet someone where you have bad reputation with them, and then you need to do some combat. But how do you do combat? I have already shown you how you do ship battles against patrols. And fighting on the ground kind of works the same way. You need to look at your characters to see your ground fighting value. When we fought against the ships, we used our ship value, remember? But now we're down on the ground and fighting enemies face to face. Again, we need to look at our value to see how many die we rolled. In this case, 3. We also need to look at our enemy to see how many die they rolled. They rolled 5 in this case. Every hit looking like this is 1 hit. Every hit looking like this is 2 hits. The eye represents focus, and it will not do damage, but it will let you use other abilities on the cards. And here you can also use other equipment that you might have. Here, for example, you gain 2 armor when you do ground combat, meaning that 2 of the hits will be lowered by 2. On the card you can also see it says that if you have strength, your opponent rolls 1 fewer die. If we look at our character here, we can see that they have the skill strength, meaning that this will activate as well. Once we know how many die we need to roll, we simply roll the die to see what we get. Whoever made the most damage wins the fight. When you're out in deep space and doing combat, you will eventually get defeated. When you get defeated, you need to lay your standee down. You need to pay 3,000 credits, and you also need to get rid of any secrets you have. Now, what is secrets? Well, secrets are cards that you will get when you do encounters. On these cards, it will say secret, and it will give you a specific special ability that you can use to mess up the game for the other players. But like I said, if you are defeated, well, I'm sorry, but you will need to get rid of them. And during your next planning phase, you will need to do the recover all damage action. But once you have done this, you get to stand your standee up again. During the action phase, you can take your actions again as normal and so on. And that's how combat works. It's quite simple. If you're doing a ship combat, you take your ship's stat. If you do a ground combat, you take your character's stats. Then you add up any other cards that you might want to add into the combat, and you simply roll your die to see how many hits you get. Now, you roll for yourself, but the player to the left gets to roll for the enemy. Meaning that if you are encountering a contact on a planet, you should not roll for the enemy. The player to your left should do that, just to make sure that everything will turn out fair, right? But if you play solo, of course you would need to roll for yourself and the enemy as well. There's just no way you go into a neighbor and ask them to roll a couple of die for you. That would just be really, really odd. But other than that, combat is quite simple. Every now and then you will also be asked to test different skills. In this case, influence. To test a skill, we need to see if we have the skill on one of our cards in front of us. Han Solo here has influence. When we test a skill, we get to roll 2 die. If we have the skill on one of our cards, we only need to get 1 hit or 1 critical hit. Meaning that if we get this, we succeed, or if we get this, we succeed. If we get both, well, we of course succeed as well. If we would have the skill more than once, like Jen Renzo here has influence, and on the card she has influence as well, she would only need to roll 1 of these 3 results to actually pass the test. Meaning that she could roll 1 hit, 1 critical hit, or 1 focus and still pass the test. But if we don't have any of the skills, we need at least 1 critical to be able to pass the test. Besides cargo, you also have the bounties. These bounties are contacts that you need to find out on the map, and then defeat them, take them with you to another part of the Outer Rim, and deliver them to whoever says on the card. The bounties here will earn you a lot of fame. When you get fame, you simply move this little pin here up on this track. And remember, whoever gets 10 fame first wins the game. So these cards are quite heavy in this game, but they're also quite hard to actually finish. So we have deliver cargo, we have do the bounties, but we also have the different jobs. And there are quite a lot of different jobs for you to do. The way you would get a job is, of course, to get it from the market first, from the planet you are on. Then you need to go to the location stated on the card and then draw the data card stated on the job card. On these data cards, there will be tests for you, there will be fights, there will be a bunch of things that you need to resolve to actually complete the job. But just as the bounties, these will give you quite a lot of fame, which you will need to use this to win the game. So these are also quite important. You could say that cargo jobs will give you mostly money to upgrade your ship and character, but the bounties and jobs are where you really can get the fame points. Besides bounties, jobs, and cargo deliveries, each player also have their personal goal. Here, players need to do and complete different objectives. In this case here, Yun needs to visit 2 Imperial planets and place damage tokens on them. Up here you can see an action that she can do during the action phase. If she's on an Imperial planet, she needs to test stealth. If she passes, she puts 1 damage token on the planet. To keep a track on her personal goals, she puts tokens here to keep a track on how many damage tokens she have placed out. And that's how you play the game. It's not that hard. It might look like a lot, but once you have gone through a few rounds, you really get the hang of it. The planning phase, the action phase, and then you have the encounter phase, and these little player turn cards here really helps you out a lot, making everything quite understandable quite fast. Did I enjoy the game? Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. I enjoyed that there's so many different ways for a player to actually win the game. And there's a lot of different ways for the players to play out their turn. Go to the market, meet the different contacts, get bounties, complete jobs. There's a lot of different ways for players to actually evolve and move up on the fame track. There's not just one route here. And the players need to be quite strategic on how they want to build up their ship, their characters, and how they want to move on in the future of their gameplay to make the most out of their turn. Because there is a lot of things you can do. It's quite a lot of simple things you can do, but in the big picture it all becomes quite complex and quite strategic, which I really like. And the game is not that hard for new players to learn, but it's quite hard to master in the long run. You can also choose to play this game solo. If you do that, you need to use the AI cards. You simply shuffle these up and then you draw the top cards and you do whatever the card says. Now, I have tried to play this solo. It did not make me that happy as I was hoping it would do. The game is good, it works good, and there's still a lot of difficulty in actually completing it solo and beating the damn AI. But a big part of this game is to try to defeat your opponents, screw them up, break alliances, and so on, and it's just not the same against an AI. Just like all Fantasy Flight games, their rulebooks are quite good and quite easy to understand. You have the rulebook here with the basic understanding, how to play the game, what you can do, and so on. But then you also have the rule reference here. This is where you get a little bit deeper understanding of the rules. And if there's ever a question out on the map on what you can or cannot do, well, just look this up and you will have the answer. This is quite well made. But like I said, this is the way Fantasy Flight games have done all the games, and it's just quite brilliant. What I'm not that happy about is the box itself. I mean, this is the insert, and it's just the same like in Arkham Horror and everything. It looks exactly the same. There are compartments for the cards here on the side, but other than just, you simply just press everything into here and it will just fly around. And I know you can have the little boxes, but come on, Fantasy Flight games, we deserve a better insert. There you have it, my friend. That was Star Wars Outer Rim for you. A 1 to 4 player game from Fantasy Flight Games. And this game is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this game. I like how you can cooperate with the other players, but at the still time, you can't really trust them because you do not know what they're planning. You have your own agenda, you can complete the different bounties, or you can just go in for doing different jobs, upgrading your ship. There's a lot of things that the players can do in this game, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it solo as well, I really did, but I think that this game shines the most when you play against other players, trying to get the most fame. This game is really cool, and if you're into Star Wars, you should really check this out. There will be links down in the description, so be sure to check that one out. If you like my video, people, please give me a thumbs up. Please throw in a comment there for you. Are you a Star Wars fan? I want to know about that in that case. And until next time, people, please do not forget to keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace.